Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Please recite a Surah Fatiha for Kul Mu'min wa Mu'minat. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجه فرج اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجه فرج. Tonight, with a very heavy heart, I want to offer condolences to Bibi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajh farj. And to our living Imam, Imam Mehdi Sahib was Zaman alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And to you guys, my brothers and sisters, my community members, I want to offer condolences on this 8th night of Muharram. The children of the camp of Imam Hussein, the cousins of Imam Hussein, the women in the camp of Imam Hussein, the elderlies in the camp of Imam Hussein have been deprived of water for over a day now. And this is the night when we recognize, when we talk about the story and commemorate the valiant death of the brother of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Hazrat Abbas. So I want to offer condolences to everyone on this night, the very heavy heart. Ya Allah, please, on this night, please purify our intentions. Allow us to do the proper recognition of such a great personality of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, of his mother, al-Baneen. Ya Allah, please remove any unclean, impure intention from the actions that we're going to do, whether it be listening, whether it be learning, whether it be volunteering, whatever we're going to do tonight in furtherance of our nearness to the Ahlul Bayt, please purify our intentions and allow us to get not just the maximum benefit, but to give the right type of acknowledgement to these great personalities who stood up for Imamah and who stood up to continue your lineage of perfection that started with Prophet Muhammad and then with our living Imam, Imam Mehdi Sahib was Imam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajh farj. Why do I always ask to purify our intention when we start? Because when we do things with the best of intentions, you get the best of results. Even if you don't realize it, it might take you years to realize the power of the dua that you did and power in the gift that Allah gave you that you started with a good intention. But when you do something with the best of intentions, they yield the best of results. So may Allah purify our intentions. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajh farj. O Baneen, you are the greatest stepmother the world had ever seen. Though the Lady of Light could not be replaced by any other, you went to the house of Fatima and you gave them a mother. 5 sons Allah gave you were martyred for Islam. Though your grave was destroyed twice, your memory will never be gone. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajh farj. As we know, as we've been saying today, we're dedicating tonight to Hazrat Abbas, to Baneen. It's Karbala poetry night. Baneen was the first one to recite Noha. She was the first one to recite Noha. Why? Because she was a great poet of her time. A lot of people didn't know that. I learned that doing research today. I want to do another request for Fatiha. Today's Majalis was inspired and sponsored by the recently marhum Ishtiyaq Bandali. He was a man who raised a very pious family. His wife, he survived by his wife, Rosila, his sons, Asad and Amin, and his daughter, Nargis. He was the brother of Nisar Bandali. And he was a man who taught his kids that when you do namaz, after every namaz, you recite 1 page of Quran in Arabic and in English, right? I think that's important to say because as we do Karbala poetry night, the greatest poetry wasn't the greatest poetry sent by Allah in the form of the Quran. And so this is a man, Ishtiyaq Bandali Marhum, who understood the power of this book and the poetry that Allah sent as guidance on this world. And he left behind progeny and a house that continues to spread the love of the Ahlul Bayt. And so on his behalf, Ya Allah, please give all the sawab of today's program to Ishtiyaq Bandali. Please, on his behalf, give the sawab of these this night to the ibadat that we do this night to all the marhum, and give him the sawab of giving all the sawab to the marhum. Please give his family strength, and please continue to guide us. We left when we lost an elder member of our community, a very pious, very dedicated man to Islam. Ya Allah, replace it with another degree of piety to continue our guidance and continue our guidance strong. So let's recite a Surah Fatiha for this, for a recent marhum, Ishtiyaq Bandali, and for Kul Mu'minin Mu'minat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajhu farajna. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajhu farajna. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajhu farajna. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin, Master of the Judgment. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahus samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahus samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Say Allah is one. Allahus samad. Allah is the original. Allah is unique. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He does not beget. He has no children. Nor is he begotten. Nor is he birthed, created from anything. Lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Then there's nothing like him. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ya Allah, we beg of you on this night when the family of Imam Hussein was suffering, when the house of Prophet Muhammad, the house of Bibi Fatima was suffering, when we recognize such a great personality as Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, on this night, we ask that you increase the benefits on the house where benefits are always being showered on the house of Bibi Fatima, on the house of Prophet Muhammad, and increase their benefits on our behalf. Shower them with blessings so much that the house of Prophet Muhammad asks where these blessings have increased from. And Allah, let them know that it comes from this community, from the community that was taught by our elders, and a community that loves our Imam. And when they accept the blessings and they acknowledge that we are their lovers, and you acknowledge that we love those whom you love, at that point, Allah, we ask that you grant our wishes, answer our du'as, kabul our hajat, and give to our community members first everything we ask for, and then give it to us. And at that point, when you realize that we love those who you love, including the community members, including your creatures on earth, our brothers and sisters, we ask that you forgive all of our sins, our small sins, especially our big sins, the sins that we didn't know we committed, the sins that we committed in arrogance, the sins that we committed in secrecy and in silence, all the sins that you know about that we don't even know about. Ya Allah, forgive our sins, especially our big sins. Ya Allah, we're sinners and we are unworthy of anything you give us. The most precious thing that you give us is your forgiveness, and everything that you give us is a product of your forgiveness. So we ask, O best of forgivers, O oft forgiving, please, on this night, forgive all of our sins. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajhu farajah. Tonight's program, like I said, tonight is Karbala Poetry Night. Banin, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, the grandchildren of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam were a family of poets. We think of them as warriors, right? They were warriors and they were poets. You think about what that means to be a warrior and a poet. See, both of them are fighting for Islam, right? Reciting poetry and fighting with your sword, right? They're both necessary components for Islam, and that is seen in the example of Hazrat Abbas and his family. So in dedication of Karbala Poetry Night, we're going to start with some poetry. Let's go, young brother Ali Jawad has written some poetry he wants to recite. Ali Jawad, chalo. Stand right here.
Didn't know when to help the kids except Abbas. Abbas is the only Abbas is the only Abbas is the only hero. There's no hero except Abbas.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Bibi Sakina. Oh, baby Sakina, you were only 4 and you went through so much. The tents were burning. You went from tent to tent. Your dress is on fire. You asked someone to help you. You had earrings pulled out of your ears. And you stepped on Hussein's chest. You looked for your brother Asghar to give him water first.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Go for it. Come on. Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hazrat Abbas, Lion of God, son of Banin and Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. He's the moon of Qamar Bani Hashim. He is the hands of Qamar Bani Hashim. And he's supposed to protect the eyes no matter what it costs him. He did this on the day of Ashura when he went to get water for Bibi Sakina and when he went to Karbala to fight for Imam Hussein and all his rights. Hazrat Abbas is very brave and strong. Hazrat Abbas is the Lion of God along with Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. Sakina, Sugra, Zainab, and Hussein all loved Hazrat Abbas all the same. So when Sakina wanted water, he rode for her. He never returned with the blood in his eyes. He also could not bear to see Sakina cry. Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, you were so brave and so strong. You are the flag bearer of Islam. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa jal faraju. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa jal faraju. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa jal faraju. We're reciting poetry in remembrance of Karbala and in honor of she who was the first to recite the Noha, Bibi Benin, all night long. And this was just a taste of the poetry that we're going to have all night. So first, we're going to start with some beautiful poetry, the words of no other than the Lady of Light, Bibi Fatima Tahara, as she recapped the story of what happened in her blessed home and the story we read today. It's very important that we do this, my brothers and sisters, because as I said, Ashura is becoming known to more and more people. And at some point in time, I was thinking about this today. There's going to come a point in time when everyone else is experts on Ashura and starts telling us how Ashura really is. And I fear for the time when the battle, when not the battle, but the sacrifice and the message of Ashura gets so usurped that people frown on us for celebrating Ashura. And when people think that we're, maybe advocating violence when we celebrate Ashura, or that, we're advocating different things that were not important, right? And so there might come a day. Right now, we're free to do Azadari of Imam Hussein, right? Some place in the world, you're not allowed to do that. And where we live, there's no guarantee that we're always going to be able to freely do the Majlis of Imam Hussein. So let's keep that in mind and let's do the Majlis of Imam Hussein proudly. And let's understand that we must have done some great deed this year. We must have done some beautiful dua this year that brought us here at this moment where we could do the Azadari of Imam Hussein and where we could listen to the beautiful recitation of Hadith Qissa from the lips of a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. That's when Hadith Qissa sounds the most beautiful, when it's from the lips of a lover of the Ahlul Bayt. A man, Assaja is named after the first marhum of Karbala, Muslim bin Assaja, and he's going to recite the Hadith Qissa for us. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jal faraju.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari an Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salamu bint Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa salamat qalat samiyat Fatimata annaha qalat dakhala alayya أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني زوفا فقلت له أعوذك بالله يا أبتاه من الزوف فقال يا فاطمة ائتني بالكساء اليمني غطيني به فأتيته به وصرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يتلألأ كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد فما كانت إلى ساعة وإذا بولادي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وسمارة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جداك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أدخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. فما كانت إلى ساعتان وإذا بوليد الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وسمارة فؤادي قال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جداه السلام عليك يا منكة تهر له أتزان لي أن أدخل معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك فدخل معهما تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن أمير رسول الله فقلت نعم ها هو ما ولديك تحت الكساء فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله أتأذن لأن أكون معكم تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيء وخليفتي وصاحب لواء قد أذنت لك فدخل علي تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبته يا رسول الله أتأذن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء وقال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزاعتي قد أذنت لك دخلت تحت الكساء اللهم صل على محمد وعلى فلامك تملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخاذ أبي رسول الله بطرف فيل كساء وأومى أبي يده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إني هؤلاء لي أهل بيتي وخساتي وهماتي لحمهم لمي ودمهم دمي يلمني ما يليمهم ويحزنوني ما يحزنهم أن حرب لمن حربهم وسلم لمن سلامهم وعدو لمن عادهم ومهيبا لمن أهابهم إنهم مني وأنا منهم فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وأذهب عنهم الرس وتطهيرهم تطهيرا فقاله عزا وجلا يا ملائكته ويا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت صنما مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزية ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرين يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محابته هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء فقال الأمين جبرائيل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومدين الرسالة هم فاطمة وأبوها وبلاه وبنوها اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا رب أتأذن لأن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك فأهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله علي العلا يقرئك سلام يخصك بتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحابتكم وقد أذين لأن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا آمنة وهالله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء اللهم صل على فقال لي أبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جماع من شيعتنا ومهيبنا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وحفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا فقال علي عليه السلام إذن والله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا ورب الكعبة فقال النبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محفل أهل الأرض وفيه جموم من شيعتنا ومهيبنا وفيهم مهمون إلا وفرج له هماه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غماه ولا تليب حاجة إلا وكزل له حاجته. فقال علي عليه السلام إذن والله فزنا وسويدنا وكذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسودوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجه. Thank you so much, Brother Asa Jadosa, for reciting that. May Allah bless you and your family and give the sawab to your parents for the hard work that you do to further the message of Imam Hussein. You know, this is an honor to be able to sit here and to speak the names of the Ahlul Bayt, to speak the names of the martyrs of Karbala. You know, it's an honor to hear Hadith Kissa. It's always my favorite part of any program, has grown to be Hadith Kissa. You know, in it, Hazrat Ali explicitly says that whoever recites Hadith Kissa, our followers, our Shia, our people, have achieved success in this world and in the hereafter. So whatever stress you have, whatever doubts you have, understand that by the direct quote of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, we have achieved success in this world and in the hereafter. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farja.
In the light of this being Karbala Poetry Night, we're going to spend a little bit of time reciting poetry. I wanted to start with a poem that I had written for tonight. It's called "The Price of Allegiance Ahead." It all started with the death of Imam Hassan. Yazid said that he was the one, but the true leader was Hazrat Ali's son. How could the son of Bani Hashim accept the rule of a tyrant and pay allegiance to him? Yazid demanded the allegiance of our Imam, or wanted him to die. Marwan, he pretended to be an ally. He told Imam Hussein to accept the corrupt government or be dead. Imam looked at Marwan, and this is what he said: "I will not accept Yazid. I would rather be dead. A man like me will never give allegiance to a man like you. I stand for righteousness no matter what you do." The Kufins, they called the Imam to lead them. So Imam Hussein sent his cousin to ensure that they would truly greet him. Muslim is dead, Muslim is dead. Instead of pledging allegiance, the Kufins cut off Muslim's head. They didn't even spare his two young sons, the grandsons of Akil. They killed the nephews of he whose cradle was rocked by Jibra'il. Hussein and his companions never reached Kufa. They were in a foreign land. Imam Hussein got off his horse and he took the earth in his hand. He smelled the sand. It smelled like the blood of the Ahlul Bayt. This is the final spot, the land of their fate. Nainawa, the land of Furat. O Karbala, this is where my grandfather told me about. This is where we would be trapped with no way out, except our death, cleansing us of this world. That was our way out. But what about the little girl? She would lose her uncles and her brothers and her father. This is the land of destiny had been foretold. He delivered a sermon to the loyal, the pious, and the bold. Oh, my Lord, you've always been my hope. You protected me and guided me. There's nothing I ever wanted that you haven't provided me. I will be steadfast in my commitment to you. It will be the gates of heaven that we will walk through. The following week would never be matched. Tens of thousands of soldiers had been dispatched. They surrounded the camp and the house of the Prophet. They cut off water and didn't even let a droplet reach the people of Hussein. Oh, the children, oh, the suffering, oh, the pain. I can't even begin to describe to you the scene. Oh, the thirst, oh, the thirst. How much would these innocent people have to go through? Oh, Ali Akbar, the light of my eye. You look just like my grandfather. How can I watch you die? He resembles the Prophet, and he would soon be dead. Ali Akbar mounted his steed, and he went to the battlefield, and this is what his father said: "The young man who stands in front of you resembles the Prophet more than any other, a reminder of the truth." Ali Akbar was wounded with a spear in his side. His father, Imam Hussein, he cried. He said, "Oh Allah, you've accepted the sacrifice of my son, a sacrifice that was not given by anyone. Your friend Ibrahim intended to do the same, but you replaced the sheep to be sacrificed in his name. Ismail and Ibrahim were blindfolded. His son's hands were tied. My eyes are open, and my son's arms were free to fight for you until he died. To remove the spear from my young son's side, I will need the strength to get my father Ali on Khaybar. Imam Hussein cried. The tragedy did not stop. Oh, Abbas, my loyal, loving brother. They took your arms. They shot your eye. Here on the sands of Karbala, where your body will lie, and Zainab will cry. And Sakina will stay thirsty. You are Bab al-Hawaj. For your sake, may Allah grant us mercy. After they severed Imam Hussein's head, his son, Imam Sajjad, was shackled. The women's heads were tied, and the women's necks were tied. They had been captured, and they had to watch the devils ride horses on the bodies of the shaheed. For what? For power? For money? For greed? We will never leave the righteous path, no matter what you do to us. The surviving prisoners were taken from Karbala to Kufa to Damascus. At the palace of Yazid, the palace of greed, Ali and Zainab's family had been shaheed, but Allah is all that they would ever need. Imam Zainul Abidin and Bibi Zainab would indeed tell the tyrant the truth, and everyone listening advice that they should heed. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
MashaAllah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. کہتی تھی یہ ماں خون بھری میت سے لپٹ کر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ارمان تھا پہناؤں گی پوشاک شہانی ارمان تھا پہناؤں گی پوشاک شہانی افسوس کہ راس آئی نہ تجھ کو یہ جوانی کیسا تھا مقدر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر 18 برس پال کے پروان چڑھایا 18 برس پال کے پروان چڑھایا اور گیسوئے والا ہے میرا خون میں نہایا قربان ہو مادر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر اتنا تو ذرا ٹھہرو تمہیں دھولا بنا لوں اتنا تو ذرا ٹھہرو تمہیں دھولا بنا لوں بس ایک جھلک سحر کی صغرا کو دکھا لوں بے چین تھی خاور ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ماں تیری جدائی میں بھلا کیسے جیے گی ماں تیری جدائی میں بھلا کیسے جیے گی مر جائے گی صغرا جو خبر تیری سنے گی اب کیا کروں دل پر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ہائے ہائے علی اکبر ٹھہرو کہ میں 18ویں منت بڑھا لوں ٹھہرو کہ میں 18ویں منت بڑھا لوں پھر لے کے بلائی تجھ دین सीने की दुआ दूं सदकाए हुए मातर हाय हाय अली अकबर हाय हाय अली अकबर कहती थी ये माँ खूं भरी मैयत से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली अकबर हाय हाय अली अकबर सलवात पर मोहम्मद वाल मोहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद वजल फर्ज अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wajal fajr.
Karbala soldier,
Allahum hoda,
Karbala soldier,
Allahum hoda,
Karbala soldier,
Allahum hoda,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
the mighty Abbas,
Karbala soldier.
Alam holder,
His arms fought for Hussein until they cut his shoulders. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
The mighty Abbas, the lion of the tribe, hungry for submission, not thirsty to survive. The thirst was for the freedom to please. Only for our Lord will we drop to our knees. You think Hussein will submit to tyranny?
please.
We will rock right into heaven. You gave us the keys. When you hid behind the trees and attacked from behind, Karbala soldier, Allah Maholda, in the face of oppression, Abbas is bolder. Sakina was thirsty, so he wrote for her a promise for water. Allah had other plans. Yes, he is Abbas. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
the mighty Abbas, but he's only one man. To kill the lion, only a pack of dogs can. Surrounded, outnumbered, an arrow in his eye. He fell on his face. He could still hear the cries. Allah Tash, the time is near. His brother and master Hussein shed tears. Karbala soldier, Allah Maholda, we will cry for his strength over and over. We stand for Hussein, no matter what the cost. The son of Ali, our protector, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas,
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Karbala soldier,
Allah Maholda,
Karbala soldier,
baby Ali Asghar,
Sugra loved you like she was your mother. Ya Sugra, Ya Sugra,
Ya Sughra, Ya Sughra,
Ya Sugra, Ya Sugra.
Ya Sughra, Ya Sughra.
She wanted to see you walk. She wanted to hear you talk, but she was left alone while the others walked from Mecca, Medina to Karbala. We walk in the streets of Huntington Beach for ya. Ya Sugra, Ya Sugra.
Ya Sughra, Ya Sughra.
Karbala soldier,
Infant warrior,
Ali Asghar,
Imam Hussein tried to get water for ya. Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar.
Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar,
Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar.
Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar.
Too weak to cry, thirsty since day 7. A 3-pointed arrow sent you straight to heaven. The ground rejected a single drop of your blood. The sky would send no rain from above. So Imam Hussein, he put your blood on his face. He had no choice. This was the only place. O Karbala soldier,
Infant warrior,
baby Ali Asghar,
the tears in our eyes are our cries for ya.
Karbala soldier,
Alam holder,
Karbala soldier,
Ali Akbar resembled the prophet more than any other. Your call for Azan at the time of Fajr, the voice of Muhammad, the prophet of God. Yazid was no king, a coward, a fraud. May Allah send curses on Ibn Ziyad. Karbala soldier,
Ali Akbar,
Ya Akbar, Ya Akbar.
Ya Akbar, Ya Akbar,
Karbala soldier,
Ali Akbar,
trained to fight by the Alam holder. Your throat was so dry from 3 days of thirst. Of all the bodies Hussein lifted, yours was the worst. His back was broken. Your wound was open. Hazrat Ibrahim tried to offer his son, but Allah had spoken. Ya Akbar, Ya Akbar.
Ya Akbar, Ya Akbar.
The grandson of the Prophet of Islam, the son of Hussein, the true Imam. The sacrifice was accepted of Layla, your mom. O Karbala soldier,
Ali Akbar,
your brother Asghar was an infant warrior. Karbala soldier,
Allah Maholda,
will carry your flag until the world is over.
Karbala soldier,
Alam holder,
the hearts of the tyrants grew much colder. They
felt no pain as they murdered the family of Hussein.
They felt no sorrow as they struck Ali Asghar with a 3-headed arrow.
Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar.
Ya Asghar, Ya Asghar.
They laughed and they danced full of pride. They ate and they drank while Sakina, she cried. Ya Sakina, Ya Sakina.
Ya Sakina, Ya Sakina.
We curse those who caused her thirst. We curse those who made her weep. We curse those who hurt the prophet deep. Our promise to Bibi Fatima we will keep. Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra.
Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra.
We are the nation of Hussein. Her sacrifice never be in vain. We pray to one day be standing on the sides of humanity. We pray to be Karbala soldiers. We pray to be Allah hold us over and over.
We promise to never let your flag touch the ground. We promise to raise it high in every town.
Karachi, Iran, New York, Tehran,
Chicago,
Orlando, San Fernando.
We will carry your flag every day, even in the streets of
downtown LA. Karbala soldier,
Alam Holda,
Karbala soldier,
infant warrior,
Karbala soldier,
Ali Akbar,
Karbala soldier.
Alam Holder.
We hold you in our hearts. Wave your flag high every day.
We
march for you in the streets of downtown LA. Karbala soldier, Alam Holda. We'll carry your flag until the world is over. Bar Muhammad, Wala Muhammad, Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Nare Haidari, Ya Ali, Nare Takbir,
Allahu Akbar.
Nare Risalat,
Ya Rasulullah.
Nare Haidari, Ya Ali.
Yeah, for kul mu'minin mu'minat, Allahumma salli ala.
Huh?
Said rid of the quote.
That. Sorry.
Said rid of the quote, man. اللهم صل على محمد شوف اليوم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وجل فرجهم. Alhamdulillah, we praise Allah. O He who is able to fulfill the desires of those who ask. O He who knows what is in the heart. O He who banishes sorrow from the sorrowful. O He who dispels grief from those who grieve. O He who is merciful to old men. O He who provides for infants. O He who need not be explained, because we can't explain him. We can't fathom him. We can't describe him. There are no words to describe him. For every word is created. Nothing about Allah is created. If we try to describe Allah, then we're assigning attributes to him. We're assigning parts to him. Yet Allah is one. He has no parts, but we do know this, that our Lord is loving, that our Lord is great. Our Lord is greater than everything. Allahu Akbar doesn't just mean Allah is great, it means Allah is the greatest. It means nothing has ever been created, nor will anything ever be created that can even comes close to the greatness of Allah. Allah. And we know, our Lord, that you are just. We know that you are so just that every single thing that happens under your justice and your mercy and your power. There's not a single sand that blows in the wind. There's not a single leaf that quivers in the tree at night that does not happen because of your power, because of your will, and because of your justice. And we ask you on this night of 8th Muharram to inspire us to gain nearness to you, to inspire us to change our lives of ignorance, to change our lives of greed and of arrogance, to change our lives of false stress and false issues and false false direction, and follow only one path, and that is a path that you've told us. Idna Siratal Mustaqim, keep us on the right path. And as we know, Siratal Mustaqim is no other than the path of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. The path of Imam Hassan alayhi salam. The path of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So we've been discussing imamat. Why are we discussing imamat? Why? Because that's what Karbala was about. It was about imamat. It was about saying that we refuse. As humans, we are not obligated. We have a choice on which king to take, right? Which king, which leadership we're going to follow, right? Some people followed the leadership of Yazid, but those who knew, those who understood the Roshni, the gift, the presence of Imam Hussein, chose to follow Imam Hussein. And not just his family, not just his cousins, not just the people who grew up with him. No, there were Christians along the way that joined him. There were people who were headed to Kufa to kill him that joined him. There were people who had cut off water supply for him and his children that chose to join Imam Hussein. Am I wrong, my brothers and sisters? Isn't that what happened? Isn't that what people saw when saw Imam Hussein? If they saw the true path? Yesterday, when we were talking about Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salam, we were talking about how just by being in captivity, just by being in prison, he prayed, and through his prayer and through his actions in captivity, he convinced his would-be assassin to not kill him. Right? This is what Imamat is, and this is what Imamat does. And Imamat guides us to everything. Right? Yesterday we talked about Imamat guiding us to death. Imamat guiding us to death. So when we meet our death, just like Janabi Qasim did, our death is sweeter than honey. Right? Our death is sweeter than honey. There's a bee flying around here. Speaking of honey, right? Ali Saud's good at catching those. So you're on bee patrol. So bee duty. Yeah, you're on bee duty. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And so they guided us on the path to death. Right? If you think about death, then you appreciate time. We discussed that. Right? Now, what else do our moms guide us to? What is one thing that every day we try to do? Every day we try to make happen, right? We ask for dua, right? We ask for dua, and we want our duas to get answered, right? And our imam intercedes on our behalf, right? But not only does our imam intercede on our behalf, our imam teaches us how to ask for dua. Our imam teaches us how to ask for dua, right? We just listened to Hadith Kissa, right? We just listened to the story of what happened in the house of Bibi Fatima al-Zahra, right? Let's pull up a quote from Hadith Kissa. In Hadith Kissa, Prophet Muhammad was sitting with his family, right? He was sitting with his family in the house of Bibi Fatima al-Zahra. Allah called that the house of Imamah, the house of guidance, right? The house of prophethood. That's the other one. And so in Hadith Kissa, as they're sitting in the cloak, right? Prophet Muhammad was in the middle. He was in the middle, and he was holding the ends of the cloak with two hands to seal it off, to make sure that only the people who were destined to be in the cloak that night would be in the cloak. Destiny is a very interesting word, right? There was many men who were trying to behead Imam Hussein on the day of Karbala, right? There are many men. In fact, so many men ran up to him with a sword. But whose destiny was it under to take the head of Imam Hussein? It was Shimmer's destiny. So no matter how hard anyone tried, they would turn away, right? But Shimmer was destined, right? So sometimes, right, our deeds choose us to do something great, right? Do majlis for Hazrat Abbas, sit in the presence of Bibi Fatima al-Zahra, as we recited Hadith Kissa, right? Sometimes we're chosen to do great things like that, but sometimes your deeds, your intentions, your history, your arrogance, your lack of compassion, your ignorance leads you to a path of destruction, where no matter how much other people try to commit a sin, that sin is yours to commit. That sin is, you have been chosen to be the one to cut off the head of Hussein. There were thousands and thousands of troops there being bribed to bring the head of Imam Hussein, and nobody could do it. Nobody could do it. But Shimmer, he sat. And when Shimmer tried, we'll tell the story of Imam Hussein. But think about this, right? These are warriors who, with one strike, would cut off an arm of Hazrat Abbas, right? Imam Hussein's throat was so dry that when Shimmer sat on his chest, he started cutting his head off. It took 12 strokes. 12 strokes. At no point in time did he stop and say, "Oh, this isn't for me. This is too hard a head to cut off." Right? He kept going 12 strokes and cut the head of Imam Hussein off, right? That sin was chosen for him, right? That sin was chosen for him, right? And so our Imam's job is to give us guidance so we don't choose that path. Didn't Imam Hussein guide Zubair ibn Kain and said, "Look, your path is not to oppose me. Your path is to join me," right? Imam Hussein gave him guidance to do that. Wasn't it Imam Hussein that stood there time and time again and said, "Do you not know who I am? Do you not know that I'm the son of the prophet of God? Don't you know that the azan you're reciting, that is the name of my grandfather? Didn't you see when my grandfather would do sajda and I'd sit on his shoulders, he wouldn't even move because he didn't want to bring me harm? This is who I am. I am the son." He told them time and time again to guide them, right? Even in the face of danger, Imam does not die, right? Imam does not change, and he stood there, right? The people trying to kill him, it was still his responsibility to reach God, to send guidance to them, so he did. He constantly did. He constantly did, right? And one of the forms of guidance was Hadith Kissa, right? So as Prophet Muhammad was sitting in the house of Bibi Fatima al-Zahra, the house that Allah called the house of Imam, the house of Risalat, right? Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Bibi Fatima, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam were sitting there. Prophet Muhammad held the two ends of the cloak, and he held it with one hand and he pointed to the sky, and he said that this is my household, right? These are my beloved. Their flesh is my flesh. Their blood is my blood. If you oppose them, you oppose me, right? And Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, right? He said himself, he said, I know better what goes on in the heavens than what goes on earth. So ask me whatever you want. Hazrat Ali knew everything that was going on, the purpose of everything. But as we said yesterday, through the words of Janabi Qasim, Imam Hussein taught us about death. He asked his nephew, he said, what do you think about death? And that taught us about death. So just as like that, Hazrat Ali alayhi salam turned to Prophet Muhammad and he said, what is the purpose of us being under this cloak right now? What is the purpose of us being under this cloak right now? And Allah calling the angels and assembling them and announcing that this is the house of Rasulullah, that these are the people of, that are pure. These are the people that I erected the sky, that I made the rotating planets, that I made the shining moon and the sailing ships. You ever think about that, right? And the sailing, I'm going a little bit off of the quote here, right? But I want to ask something, right? Something kind of interesting, right? So I erected the sky, I made the shining moon, okay? I made the rotating planets.
Do you want me to take this off?
No, it's fine. I made the rotating planets, right? And the sailing ships, right? Now you hear those four things, and what kind of stands out to you? Sailing ships, right? Like everything else is cosmic, right? The moon, the sky. And then there's the ships, right? Why did Allah say the sailing ships? Anyone want to take a stab at it? You want to take a stab at it?
Back in the day, what like their best technology, right? It's like this was created like in the AD, right? It was after death of Christ. So it was back in the day, the best thing creation was like a ship,
Exactly.
Like right now, our creation maybe might be like a rocket ship and we can go to the moon.
Yeah.
Over there it was they can go on the ship to a different island or something.
Right. And nobody could go build a sailing ship, right? You could go build a raft, right? But a sailing ship, you needed somebody who understood what's it called? Aviation is flying. Who understood aquatics, right? Who understood. There's a different word for it. That understood how physics work and how buoyancy works and how to make the ships. That was the most complex invention of that time, right? And so the sailing ship signifies whatever you think the most complex of a supercomputer, a spaceship, artificial intelligence, right? Whatever the most advanced technology is, right? That was equivalent to what a sailing ship was back then. And so that's what Allah was saying, that anything created, I created it. And not only did I create it for these five personalities under the cloak. Prophet Muhammad, Bibi Fatima, Hazrat Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein. So why did that happen that night? Right? Well, what was the significance of that night? And so Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, the best friend of Prophet Muhammad, right? He turns to Prophet Muhammad, his best friend, the only person who could tell Hazrat Ali something maybe that he didn't know, right? Only creation greater than Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, the only giver of knowledge to Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, right? There was somebody who Hazrat Ali didn't ask anyone questions other than what can I do for you? Are you okay? This and that, right? Or he would ask them questions that would get them to think about something, right? But he's asking Prophet Muhammad a question, enlighten me, O Prophet of Islam. What is the purpose of this meeting here tonight? And what did he say, right? He said a lot, we cut the quote down a little bit, right? But it's for discussion purposes. So he said, whenever the tale of this gathering is mentioned in an assembly of people on earth, he's talking to us. Whenever this gathering is mentioned by the people on earth, which a group of our adherents, people who adhere to us and love us, are present, and among them, there is no distress except Allah Almighty will release him from his distress. If you're sad, if you read Hadith Qissa, Prophet Muhammad says that Allah, right? Prophet Muhammad said this, so it has to be true, right? Bibi Fatima said the Prophet said this, so it has to be true, right? He says that there will be no one distressed, that Allah will release their distress. And then he says, or if there's among them anyone aggrieved, Allah shall remove their grief, right? So if you're stressed out, Allah will remove your stress. If you're grief-stricken, Allah will remove your grief, right? With the recitation of Hadith Qissa, right? And then he said, or among them, anyone who has any needs or request to be granted, Allah Almighty shall certainly grant his request, right? So if anyone needs anything, right? If anyone needs anything, if you have a wish, if you have a hajat, if you have a dua, and you ask for your dua during Hadith Qissa, after the acknowledgement of these personalities, then the request will be granted, right? And Hazrat Ali didn't stop there and say, okay, thanks, right? Hazrat Ali then spoke some knowledge too. He said, then we have won and we have attained pleasure, right? He's talking about the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, right? We have achieved one. I swear by Allah, so have our adherents, right? Not just have we, we, the people under the cloak, achieved success, but the people who adhere to them, they have won and they attain pleasure in this world and in the hereafter. I swear it by the Lord of Kaaba, right? Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Brother Ali Sagar, why don't you tell me what this quote? It's a long quote, right? But what from this quote stands out to you?
There's a lot of things that stand out to me.
Well, I want you to do this. Let's talk about my favorite part of the entire. I always say Hadith Qissa is my favorite part of the program, and this particular quote from Hadith Qissa is my favorite part of it because it gives me strength and it helps me feel better. Not because of just the fact that Allah says, if anyone's distressed, I'll remove the stress. If anyone's aggrieved, I'll remove the grief. Not just because of that, because of what Hazrat Ali says. He said, so our adherents, they have won and attained pleasure, achieved success in this world and in the hereafter, right? What does that mean?
It means the followers of the Ahlul Bayt, which are in turn the followers of Imamah, are the ones that are rightfully guided. And those are the ones that have the best path towards reaching heaven.
Right. And what I think is interesting is we were talking about how the Imams guide us to do many things. They guided us on how to live so we can remember death and how to, be ready for death, right? And here they're telling us how to ask for dua, how to achieve pleasure, right? What do you think about that, Brother Ali Qasim? Did you get a chance to look at the quote? Brother Dosa, why don't you hit it?
So this quote, I really, really, really like this quote because I always say this, but us as humans, we're not infallibles and we need guidance over time. Definitely, we need guidance to further our education, not just here, but in the hereafter. So I really, really like it because, as Brother Kamal said, it shows us how to pray, how to attain Jannat, and how to attain the highest levels of Jannat just by doing the simplest things. And it's also showing how in this world, praying and doing all these sorts of things and following the Ahlul Bayt can give you so much happiness and release so much stress from your life. So it's really, really interesting quote.
Osama?
What I received by reading and viewing the quote was the fact that Hadith Qissa, when reciting Hadith Qissa, in it said that this is the path of success, right, in this life and the hereafter. It's like by knowing that this is the original narration from Bibi Fatima and it came directly from Allah, right? And it also said about the quote previously about the sailing ships, the rotating planets, right? Back in from modern history, we know that, or modern science, we know that Copernicus was a person who said that the planets rotate or whatever. That was his theory. But before Copernicus, like 1,000 years before, when Hadith Qissa came out, right? Allah narrated already that, the planets rotate. And like
right. Bibi Fatima said it before Copernicus said it, before Galileo said it, right? Hundreds of years before they did. How amazing is that?
So how can we not believe, saying this isn't the path to success?
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. The something that stood out to you?
Hadith Qissa is a gift to us, and it removes our stress, so we should follow the Ahlul Bayt.
So what should you do when you wake up in the morning and for no reason you're stressed out? What should you do?
Read Hadith Qissa,
Right, and what happens?
and you become not stressed.
How do you know that though?
Because it says in here in Prophet.
So what if it says in there, what if Prophet Muhammad said it, right? And if Prophet Muhammad said it, it has to be true, right? And if Prophet Muhammad said it, and it has to be true, and you listen to Hadith Qissa, Let me ask you. Who's stressed out right now? You stressed out, right? Who has something else? You're stressed out. Let's hear.
I was stressed out before, but once I read He's Kissing,
You see, every time, because it does many things, including remind you what life is about, including remind you what's important in life, right? They're teaching us how to pray, right? There's a lot of things that you can do, right? We did do at the Wessel to seek intercession, the Wessel from the 14 infallibles on Tuesday. And we talked about the intercession, right? There's other ways that the imams have taught us, that our guides have taught us on how to ask for, to ask for a dua, right? Now, let me tell you about one of them, right? Let me tell you about a hero. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms, they fought for freedom until they cut them off. He was the son of the lion of God, the lion of the tribe was what he was called. Ya Abbas, no matter what the cost. With you by our side, we are never lost. Babul Hawaij, the gateway to prayers. He stood by Hussein when no one else was there. You see, Babul Hawaij, the gateway to prayers. That was his title. That is Hazrat Abbas's title, right? And what did it mean when he stood by Hussein when no one else was there? He literally stood by Hussein when there was nobody else there. All the warriors were dead. The sons of Imam Hussein were dead. The sons of Bibi Zainab were dead, right? The sons of Muslim bin Aqil were dead, and Hazrat Abbas, right? I've been saying how Hazrat Abbas, since Yazid first took the throne, right? Stole the throne and started to call himself king, right? Since Imam Hassan alayhi salam was martyred and arrows were shot at his casket, since then Hazrat Abbas is ready. Hazrat Abbas is scared of nobody. He's not scared of death, right? And not only that, Hazrat Abbas was, the greatest warrior, that people had seen, right? People, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, was 8 years old in the Battle of Siffin. He was 8 years old in the Battle of Siffin, okay? And in this battle, right, there was a man named they called him Abu Zaza, right? He was a villain, a bad guy, like Zaza Pachulia, right? Zaza Pachulia, right? You know what I'm saying? So this guy, he was a commander in the other army, right? He was a well-known, renowned warrior, okay? And at that time, when war was going on, people would go on the rooftops and would watch the combat. That was sport to them. They would see, oh, this warrior versus this warrior today. You know what I mean? Let's check it out, right? And so they would go watch, right? And so he would hype it up. And so Abu Zaza, he had 7 sons, and he went and he started calling and challenging Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. I challenge the son of Abu Talib. I challenge Ali. I challenge you to a duel. I have 7 sons, and my youngest son will defeat you in a duel. Started calling him. He said, if you don't come in the morning to challenge me, you're a coward. And I won and challenging him. People heard this challenge and they knew that there's no way Hazrat Ali alayhi salam would not back down from a challenge, right? They knew, and so people came. They came. This is the main event, right? You get to see Hazrat Ali alayhi salam today, right? You get to see Hazrat Ali alayhi salam on his horse, right? He was so skilled on the horse. He would pull carriage with 16 horses with one hand, like it was no big deal. You know what I'm saying? He was so skilled on the sword that he wouldn't even go and he wouldn't fight fast. He said, fight slow, right? People think it's about fast, but Imam Ali alayhi salam, he saw things quicker than anyone. So he fought slow and he looked at the person's soul before he killed him. And before he struck him, he'd say, Allahu Akbar, right? Allahu Akbar, he would do. And he would look to see if there's any goodness in them before he struck him down, right? He would be seen in battle. He'd go and he'd stop and he'd go to the next person and kill them. Somebody asked him why. He said, I saw goodness in him, right? This was Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, right? So people knew they wanted to see a type of battle that you could only see if you saw the Lion of God fight, right? And so the morning came, and Abu Zaza and the 7 sons, they stood there challenging Hazrat Ali, right? And the tension was building up. Everyone was like, where is he? Whispers are going, people whispering, he's coming. Right? All of a sudden, a horse from the back of the war zone comes riding up, and on the horse was a skilled rider wearing a chadar over his face. You know what I'm saying? They had a mask on. It was the desert. There was sandstorms and this and that, and so people would cover their face, right? So the face was covered, the head was covered. All you could see was his eyes, right? And he went up, and he went up and jumped off his horse. As he jumped off his horse, the first son of Abu Zaza came. He was killed. Second son, third son, 7th son of Abu Zaza was killed, and Abu Zaza came to attack, and he was struck down. It was like when you're expecting, a great event and you go and the fight's over in 16 seconds, right? That happens all the time, right? That's what happened is everyone, they're hyped. We're going to see Hazrat Ali alayhi salam fight 8 men, 7 men. And they came in a matter of seconds, it was over. The whole family, Zaza family wiped off the face of this earth, right? And then the warrior was standing there with his face covered. And then another horse came from the back of the battlefield. Another horse came from the back. And everyone looked and they were amazed because on the horse guess who was on the horse? Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, absolutely right. Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was on the horse riding to the front where everyone had just seen this great warrior, take down 7 legendary warriors, right? And he stood by the warrior and everyone asked, they said, "Oh, Ali, you were standing here. Who is under the mask?" And the person in the mask looked at Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. And Hazrat Ali alayhi salam did not instruct him to take his mask off, right? So they asked, "Who are you?" He said, "I am the son of Banu Hashim." And they said, "Banu Hashim has 2 sons, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein." He said, "No, they're the moons of Banu Hashim. I am the son," right? And then they asked, "Who are you?" He said, "I am the hands of Banu Hashim. I am the hands of Banu Hashim." And they said, "The hands of Banu Hashim?" He said, "Yeah, Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein are the eyes of Banu Hashim. And it's the responsibility of the hands to protect the eyes," right? And then, he looked back at Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, and Hazrat Ali alayhi salam let him know, the warrior know it was okay to reveal himself. And this warrior started to unwrap his mask. And when it was done, he stood there and the army was staring back at an 8-year-old boy named Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. It was in that battle, the battle of Siffin, when Imam Hussein was fighting battle, Imam Hassan was fighting battle, Hazrat Ali was fighting battle. An enemy had come from behind to strike Imam Hussein, right? And Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam was there. He was there as an observer. He was there with his family. He was an 8-year-old boy. Jihad was not required on him, right? His father Ali had just let him debut his skills against the enemies, but he still was not supposed to fight in the war, right? And so he's sitting there watching. But as this man went to go strike Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Hazrat Abbas grabbed the sword and struck him down. And Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was so proud of him. Right? He was so proud of his son, right? Why was he proud of his son? Because, see, when the lion married al-Bani, it was the day of Ashura he had on his mind. A companion for Hussein he would surely find. In Karbala, the land of despair, neither Ali nor Hassan, none would be there. So Allah gave him a son, the gateway to prayers. Bab al-Hawaj would surely be there. You see, that is why Hazrat Abbas was born. The intention for Hazrat Abbas was to represent Imam Hussein in the battle on the day of Ashura, right? He knew that he would not be there. He knew that Hassan would not be there, right? And he wanted to have sons. Now, as we know, right? In Islam, marriage is highly recommended and is, and you're allowed to, especially back then, people had more than one wife. But when Hazrat Ali was married to Bibi Fatima Zahra, when Prophet Muhammad was married, don't get any ideas, man. When Prophet Muhammad was married to Bibi Khadija, they only had one wife, right? And after Bibi Fatima Zahra was brutally attacked and was martyred with young Mohsin in her stomach, right? After that happened, Hazrat Ali was aggrieved, right? And he took a long time until his brother Akil came to him. He said, "It's time. Your kids are young. You're a father. You're a widower father. You should remarry." And his brother Akil, he would do matchmaking, right? He would do matchmaking. Back then they didn't have Minder and MuslimDate.com or whatever they had, right? Hazrat Akil, who would find people who were compatible. And what did Hazrat Ali say to him? He said, I want a woman who's gonna help me have warriors as sons that are going to be there in Karbala, right? So he did his research. And he found a woman from a tribe named Kalbi, right? The tribe's men were known to be great warriors. They're known to be great warriors, such great warriors that they would train. All day they would train and they would fight against each other, right? Then they would fight against each other and they would train and get bored of that and they go fight against bears. They go fight against lions. These are the people who were of the tribe of al-Bani, right? Now her name wasn't al-Bani. Her name was Fatima. But when she came to the house of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, she couldn't bear to see the tears in his eyes when he would call her, when he would call her name. So she asked to never be called Fatima again, right? And she became known as al-Bani, the mother of sons, right? She was a poet, right? I learned this in my research today. She was a renowned poet of her time, right? You see, that's why it's so important. Swords are important to defend, but your tongue is also important to save Islam, right? And then this is shown in the family of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, right? This is shown in the family of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. You see, Hazrat Abbas, not only was his mother a poet, right? She was the first one to recite Noha, right? She was the first one to recite Noha for Imam Hussein, right? She was the first one to do that. And Hazrat Abbas, he had some sons, right? He had some sons, and one was named Fadl, and one was named Ubaidullah. Now, through Ubaidullah, his progeny continued, right? Ubaidullah had a son. He had a son, Hamza ibn Hassan ibn Ubaidullah ibn Abbas, right? He was a poet, right? He had a son named Abdullah ibn Ibrahim. He was an author. Al-Abbas ibn al-Hassan, he was a poet. Abdullah ibn Abbas was a poet. You see, this is the progeny of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, the progeny of poetry, right? A progeny of spreading the love, right? And if you are still confused at why I keep talking about poetry, right? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Say Allah is one, Allah is unique. He does not beget, nor is he begotten. There is none like him, right? Poetry, bars after bars in this book, the Quran right here, right? Over and over again, right? You translated it to English, you still see it's poetic prose, right? When Allah sent Islam, when Allah taught us Islam, Allah taught us Quran, and Allah taught us poetry. And this is a tradition. This is our tradition. This is our responsibility. That's why tonight is dedicated to Karbala, the poetry of Karbala. It's Karbala Poetry Night. You see, in Karbala, Imam Hussein did a number of things, right? He made some very hard decisions, as we've been talking about, right? Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, he was 100% sure he was going to be the first martyr, right? It made sense, right? He was the defender of everything. Anybody needed anything, they come to Hazrat Abbas, right? So how could it be that anybody here is going to get hair harmed on their head when Hazrat Abbas is alive? There's no doubt in his mind that would happen, right? When they got to Karbala, right, and they had to move the water tents, he drew his sword, and Imam Hussein made him put his sword away. Right, when Hazrat Hur came to the camp of Hussein, he drew his sword out, and Hazrat Abbas kept having to put his sword away that he spent all night sharpening. Why did he spend his night sharpening? Because he knew that tomorrow I'm going to be the first one out there, and that wasn't the case, was it? That wasn't the case, was it? First, the warriors went, right? Muslim bin Asajah, Hazrat Hur, Habib bin Mazahir, the Ansari brothers, the Jabari brothers, right? And then the house of Imam Hussein, right? The house of Imam Hussein, the Ahlul Bayt, 17 members of the Ahlul Bayt were martyred, right? And Hazrat Abbas then was sure, I'm next. I'm not going to let anybody of the house of Hussein, the family of Fatima be hurt while I'm alive. But Hazrat Ali Akbar mounted the horse, right? And then he came back. And then the martyrs started getting younger and younger. And then the sons of his daughter, his sister Zainab, his young sons of his sister Zainab, the young son of his brother Hassan, Janab Qasim, were martyred. And one by one, these, the different martyrs of Karbala came, right? And Imam Hussein, the time drew near. The time drew near when he knew that his life was going to end soon, right? And so what did he do, right? He provided guidance to us through guiding his son. Let's put that second quote up. He guided us through guiding his son, his sixth son, Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Muhammad was too sick to lift his head. Too sick. Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, think about this. He was so sick that he slept through the entire battle of Karbala. He was there seeing everybody get ready, seeing what was going on, seeing the havoc, and trying to help out wherever he can. But he was so sick, he lay there. He fell asleep, and when he woke up, there was nobody left. When he woke up, there was nobody left. Imagine that. Imagine how sick he must have been to sleep through that, right? So when he was awoke, when he woke up, Imam Hussein, Imam Hussein had went to him, right? Imam Hussein had went to him with his final will, his final advice to his son, right? And he said to his son, he said, "Oh son, I am teaching you a dua, which you should remember. Angel Jibreel taught it to my grandfather." Who's his grandfather? Prophet Muhammad, right? Hazrat Jibreel, and not just an angel of God, the archangel of God. It's Hazrat Jibreel who used to rock the cradle of Imam Hussein. It was Hazrat Jibreel who used to come down from heaven so he could rock the cradle of Imam Hussein. And the angel Jibreel had taught this dua to Prophet Muhammad, right? And he said, then Prophet Muhammad passed it to Bibi Fatima Tadara, just like our parents had passed on the the day of Karbala and the dua to us from their grandfathers to their fathers to us, just like how our Islam is being passed down. That's how Islam was passed down for Prophet Muhammad. This dua was given to him from Hazrat Jibreel, passed to Bibi Fatima, and he said, and I want everyone to listen to this. Read the quote. I'm calling on you next, Brother Ali Cash. So he said, whenever you have a special need or are faced with any calamity or a crisis or are influenced with any grief or hardship, right? When have we been in this position, right? Recite the following supplication. And I recited this at the beginning of our majlis, right? Said, oh, he who is able to fulfill the desires of those who ask. Oh, he who knows what is in the heart. Oh, he who banishes sorrow from the sorrowful. Oh, he who dispels grief from those who grieve. Oh, he who is the merciful to old men. Oh, he who provides for infants. Oh, he who needs not be explained. We cannot explain Allah, but we need not explain Allah. We need not explain Allah, right? And send blessings on Prophet Muhammad and fulfill for me, right? And now you ask for your dua. Let's take 30 seconds. Everyone ask for your dua. Ask for forgiveness, right? This is a dua that Imam Hussein on the day of Karbala taught Imam Zainul Abidin, said it was taught to my grandfather by Jibreel, taught to my mother Fatima by her father, the perfect creation of Allah, Prophet Muhammad. This is how you ask for dua. This is what you say when you're asking for dua, and it'll be kabul. So we just did that dua. So ask for your dua. Pray for your parents, right? Don't forget to pray for your marhum. Don't forget to pray for, if you're going to ask for something for yourself, you should want it for the entire community. Allah's kingdom is not small. Allah's kingdom does not diminish. Allah's kingdom is so great that everyone could get everything they ever wanted, and you could still get more than you ever wanted. That is the kingdom of Allah. So ask for your wishes. Please remember me, my mother, my family, my children, my marhum father, Tahir Mumin, brother Ishtiyaq, Banda Ali, whose family sponsored the Majlis today. Remember them in your prayers. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So now, brother Ali Cash, why don't you tell us when you hear this, what do you think? What do you want to tell us about this dua?
Yeah, basically it just shows like Allah is like the all-knowing, so like it's He who you call to solve your problems and like everything. Like he's all-knowing, all-powerful. So
what does that mean? Should you be shy when you ask Allah?
No, you should be.
Should you hold back when you ask Allah?
Not hold back at all. You should let it all out.
Right? How should you ask for dua, brother?
From the deepest part of your heart. Allah is the closest thing to you in your life. He is closer to you than your regular vein. So
that's a quote from Hazrat Ali.
Exactly. So you have to be as real as you can. There's no hiding anything.
Well, even if you're not real with Allah, does He know? What do you think, Sister Rida? Does He know? You don't keep it real with Allah.
I think that like Allah is all knowing, so He knows the things that you don't even have to say that are in like the deepest corners of your heart and your mind. He knows them already.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. That's 100% right. And that's what this dua is that's what the Imam is teaching us here, is how to ask for dua. How to ask for dua, what to think about when you're asking for dua, right? First, you think that is He, right? This is in order of what you should do, right? Think about the order of this. Brother Ali, what do you think about the order of the dua, the order of what He's telling us to do, right? Starting with, first you say, oh, He was able to fulfill that. What do you think about that?
Oh, son, I teach you a dua.
Yeah. This right here, this one. Think about the delicacy. Read it one time. I'll read it with you, right? But as we read it, I want you to think about the order that things come in, right? The order He said everything. Everything is calculated. Everything is knowledge, right? Here's how you ask for dua, He said. He told Imam Zainul Abidin on the day of Karbala. Here's how you ask for dua. Hazrat Jibreel told Prophet Muhammad, told Bibi Fatima, told me, and I'm telling you, my son, on this day of Ashura, right? Oh, He who is able to fulfill the desires of those who ask. Oh, He who knows what is in the heart. Oh, He who banishes sorrow from the sorrowful. Oh, He who dispels grief from those who are grieved. Oh, He who is merciful to old men. Oh, He who provides for infants. Oh, He who needs not be explained. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know in terms of the order, but I think just it shows, I will actually have the first two lines, like it's like who is able to fulfill the desires of those who ask, or of those asked, or He who knows what is in the heart. So He knows, it's
you know who you're praying to, right?
Yeah.
Right? Who are you praying to? You're praying to He who fulfills desires. Who are you praying to? You're praying to He who knows what's in your heart, right? That's what He says. Understand who you're praying to. Acknowledge who you're praying to, and then pray to Him, right? and then pray to him, right? Who is he? What else does he do, Brother Hadi?
He banishes sorrow from the sorrowful. He dispels grief from those who grieve. So
Now, what happens when you banish something? Removing something and banishing are different. Taking something and banishing something, right? What does that mean when you banish it? It's
he
going
gets,
to banish
just
it.
completely gets rid of any if you pray to him, you have like some issues going on.
Yeah.
He's gonna help you out.
Yeah, he forbids grief in your heart. Forbids it. You're get out of here. You are not allowed in the heart of this believer. That's what he does, right? That's what he does. And this is why, one of the many reasons why Imamat is so important. This is the many reasons why Imamat, so we understand how to ask for dua, right? How to ask, how to get your duas fulfilled, how to prepare for death, how to, the importance to give to namaz, the importance to give, all of this was taught to us on the day of Ashura, right? All of this is taught to us. And if you're ever in confusion, right, what do?
Pray.
You pray, right? And who's going to come and help you if you call them?
Allah, the Imams.
The Imam, right? Our Imam comes, right? Why does our Imam come help us? Why does our Imam come help us?
Because it's his job.
It's his job, right? What's the Imam's job?
To help us.
Right, to help us and guide us, right? If you're asking for help and you're asking for guidance, why isn't the Imam going to come? It's his job, right? That's his duty on earth. Doesn't matter if you're hidden it, oh Imam Mehdi. Doesn't matter if you're in captivity, Imam Hassan Askari. Doesn't matter if you're in jail, Imam Musa Qadir. Your job is to send a message, to provide knowledge, and your job is to help people. Doesn't matter where you are. See, that is the duty of Imamat, right? Doesn't matter how difficult it is. Imam Mehdi Sahib was Imam al-Islam. It doesn't matter if people are looking around for you and don't know where you are. When they call you, you be right where they need you to be. And you help them. And that's the duty of Imamat, right? That is the duty of Imamat, right? The time, it was drawing near, right? It was drawing near, right? What I mean by the time was drawing near, right? The time was drawing near when the children and the women of the camp of Imam Hussein, who had relied on their brothers, right? Bibi Zainab had 17 brothers, right? People would tell, when she would hear that her job would get snatched, she would think, how's that possible? I have 17 brothers. You're gonna kill one of them? There's no way any group of people on earth can kill 17 of my brothers, right? She thought this, right? Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, right? He's the greatest defender, right? The greatest giver, right? So he was such a great fulfiller of needs of the Ahlul Bayt that he's Baba Hawaij to this day. He's a gateway to our prayers being answered, right? This is his title that he was given, right? And on this day of Ashura, right? Why is it that he kept asking Imam Hussein, is it my turn? Is it my turn? And Imam Hussein kept saying no. Now there's a political thing I want to explain to you. Shimr was at the Abbas's maternal uncle, right? He was his mom's cousin, right? And so because of that, I talked about Shimr, and I used a modern word that to describe somebody who's a kiss up and who doesn't think for themselves and who follows around, right? But yesterday, I was having a discussion about Karbala, and I realized something important, right? It's not a Disney movie where there's villains and there's people who had conflicts going on within their heart, right? There are people who, Shimmer he was a leper, right? Which is why he was a little bit deformed. He had a pig-like nose, right? He was very dark. His ears were kind of deformed, right? So he was a deformed looking dude, right? And that made him insecure, right? And so he was, people probably clowned him like we clowned the head a lot. You know what I'm saying? That's very handsome though. So, we clown about it. We hate because we ain't with him, right? But, Shimmer was a guy where in his house, he had installed stilts, right? So when he walked on in his house, he didn't kill any bugs, right? He was a man who looked out for the life of little bugs, right? But he took the life of Imam Hussein, right? And it's important to understand that internal struggle. When he was sitting on the chest of Imam Hussein, he said, I know you're the son of Ali. I know you're the son of Fatima, but I know Allah wants you dead. That's what he thought, right? Because he was misguided. Why was he misguided? Because he was following the wrong path. Instead of following Sirat al-Mustaqim, he was following the path of greed and the path of Yazid. They kind of rhyme, right? The path of greed, the path of Yazid, right? Right? The poetry night, right? Poetry night all night, right? And so, Yazid had written a letter. Ibn Ziyad had written a letter to Hazrat Abbas, right? And Hazrat Abbas got this letter and he read it and he was angry, right? And he was angry. And all of a sudden said, what's that letter about? And he said, it's nothing. He said, let me see the letter. And he read the letter and he opened it up and it said, you, Abbas, son of Fatima bint Kalbina, right? Bint Kinabi, that was her tribe, right? Are given amnesty. Amnesty means safety in Karbala, right? You are not to be attacked because you are the nephew of one of our generals, So we're not going to attack you. And so when he did this, what happens, right? What happens? What did Imam Hussein keep saying? We're not going to be the first ones to attack. So if somebody's going to come and say, hey, I'm not going to attack this guy, you're not allowed to fight, are you? Right? You see, that was a political move he did, right? And so now the time had come, right? The time had come. There were some brothers of Imam Hussein, right? Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Abdullah ibn Ali, Umar ibn Ali, and Umar ibn Ali, Abdullah ibn Ali, and Muhammad al-Asr, and Abdullah ibn Ali. They all stepped to the battlefield, right? They were sons of Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. They had been martyred. After they had been martyred, Hazrat Abbas, he couldn't stand it anymore, right? He had his brothers, and he called his brothers to come by. They were 19 to 21 years in age, right? Abdullah, Jafar, and Uthman. He called them, right? And he asked them, he said, how is it possible that the family of Hussein is being killed and you guys are still here? Go fight. And the brothers went and they fought. And they were martyred, and now there was nobody left, right? I said he stood by Hussein when no one else was there, right? That's what it means. No one else is there. And who is left? Hazrat Abbas is left. And he's hearing Bibi Sakina. He's hearing Bibi Sakina and the kids saying al-Tash, right? And he goes to Imam Hussein. He said, what's next? It's next is me. That's it. And Imam Hussein, he said, he said, not yet. Why don't you go and try and get water first? Right? So when he mounted Uqab, his mighty horse, he was so tall, his feet touched the floor. Who would have known what they had in store? When he rode for Sakina, rode for her thirst, he reached the river, but he didn't drink first. Allah-Tash, and Allah min mush. To knock down the flag of Islam, they set the dogs to cut off his arms. Ya Abbas, his arms were lost. The water for the children, he clenched with his teeth. With the shot from Hormola, the bag water was breached, right? Ya Abbas, this is what happened in Karbala to Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, right? Bibi Sakina, I had heard her father, right? The kids, think about this. I said, think about the 7th of Muharram. Think about the 7th of Muharram, when all of the women are there, when all of the soldiers are there, ready to fight, ready to defend, right? Imam Hussein's telling everyone to wait, right? But they're ready to go. Imagine the cries, right? I think about how when the first child said, Allah-Tash, how the women must have cried, and this didn't go on just on Ashura for 3 days. Allah-Tash, that's all they would hear from the children. It's like the children didn't know anything else to say except Allah-Tash, and Abbas would hear Bibi Sakina do this. So when Imam Hussein told him, when he said, go get the children water first, Hazrat Abbas said, okay, I could do that. I'm going to go get them water. And he got his sword. He got his horse and he mounted Uqab, his mighty horse, right? He was so tall, so he touched the floor. Hazrat Abbas was no small man. He was somebody to reckon with. He was a giant among men, right? And he got on his horse. Uqab means eagle, right? It was a horse that was gifted to him by Prophet Muhammad, right? But gifted to Hazrat Ali by Prophet Muhammad, and then given to Hazrat Abbas by Hazrat Ali alayhi salam. It was a horse owned by Prophet Muhammad named Uqab, eagle, right? Hazrat Abbas got on the horse. He had a mush that he was going to fill up with water. He got his sword, put his sword in its sheath and started to ride it. And Imam Hussein stopped him. He said, my brother, where are you going? He said, I'm going to get water. He said, not yet. Don't take this with you. He took his sword out. He took Hazrat Abbas's sword out and he gave him a flag of Islam, the flag bearer of Islam. I want you to go get water holding this flag of Islam. And Hazrat Abbas looked at his brother. He took the flag and he rode onto the battlefield. And the people saw him coming, right? The people saw him coming. The arrows, Bibi Sakina, then she gathered all of the kids, right? Gathered all of the kids. Remember on the night when Hazrat Ali alayhi salam was poisoned, right? There were orphans lined up at his door with bowls and with plates, right? They were lined up with bowls and with plates when Imam Ali had been attacked by Ibn Muljib, right? On this day, the orphans lined up again because Bibi Fatima said, water is coming, my uncle's bringing water, right? But unlike the day when Hazrat Ali was attacked, their bowls, the orphans on the night that Hazrat Ali was attacked were filled with milk because the orphans were bringing milk because the physician said that maybe the milk will keep the poison from spreading through Hazrat Ali's body. The orphans heard this, and so the orphans lined up with their bowls and their plates at Hazrat Ali's door with milk. And now the orphans were all lined up again. All these kids were orphans, newly orphans. Their fathers, their uncles, their cousins had been martyred. Their brothers had been martyred. And they all lined up with their plates and their bowls again, but this time they were empty. They were empty, but they had hope. That hope that Hazrat Abbas was going to bring water. That Hazrat Abbas was going to bring water. Hazrat Abbas, he was from a family of poets. He was from a family of poets, right? And he started to go towards the river, right? And as the kids watched, they saw it started to rain. It started to rain, but it wasn't raining water. No, it was raining arrows on Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. You think an arrow is going to kill Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam? As he rode, dodging the arrows, catching the arrows, throwing them. The enemy saw him charging full strength. They all moved aside. Hazrat Abbas, he recited the following. When he reached the river and he touched the water, the cold water he had not touched in days. Cold water he had not touched in days. This, the sweet flowing water of Nele Forat, right? He touched the water and he looked at it and he said the following. He said, "O self, to Al-Hussein, after him, it matters not whether you be or you don't be. This is Hussein approaching death when you dare drink the sweet water." A poet at that time, he looked at the water and he recited poetry. He said, "By God, this is not an act of my faith, nor an act of true certainty," right? Bibi Sakina was watching. She was watching as Hazrat Abbas reached the river. All she saw from afar was the flag. All she saw from afar was the flag. As the arrows started to rain down, the orphans started to wonder if they're going to get water. And when the flag reached the river and the flag stopped and was held up high, Bibi Sakina turned to the orphans and she said, "Yes, the water is coming. Hazrat Abbas, my uncle reached the river, the water is coming," and the orphans, the little kids were happy and they raised their whatever energy they had. Kids start get hyper the oddest moments, right? The kids started to feel happiness again. They were about to get water. Hazrat Abbas is coming. The alam dipped for a second, and Bibi Sakina held her breath. She held her breath. And when the flag was lifted again, Sakina cheered. She told them, "He has the water. He has the water is coming." Bibi Zainab heard this. To this point, she hadn't done anything. She hadn't said anything. She didn't want to get her hopes up, but she pulled Bibi Sakina aside. She said, "Sakina, water is about to come." She said, I know, my aunt, water is about to come." She said, "Sakina, when the water comes, your brother drinks first. The youngest ones always drink first, okay, Sakina? So when the water comes, you give it to first." Said, okay. And she told them, and then she saw the flag going in the wind, right? Arrows coming, flying at Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. A man jumped from behind a tree and cut Hazrat Abbas's arm off. Right? And Hazrat Abbas, he said, "I do not fear death if it approves. Leaving brave men fell beside me. I give my soul in protection of the Prophet's grandson. I am Abbas. I will return the water. I do not fear harm on the day of battle." And then he said, "By God, if you have severed my right arm, I will continue to defend my faith," reciting poetry on the battlefield. He's the son of a poet, right? He's the son of a poet, Benin. "I will continue to defend my faith and an imam of true certainty, the grandson of the pure trusted prophet." This is what he said when they took his right arm and he held the Mashki Sakina. He took the Mashki Sakina, he had it in his other arm and he put it in his teeth. He's riding his horse with the Mashki in his teeth. And then he recited, "O self, do not fear this band of disbelievers and rejoice for the mercy of Allah. Alongside our master, the chosen prophet, along with the other noble, pure souls, they have severed my left arm by the wretchedness. O Lord, deliver them blazing to hell." And Bibi Sakina heard this and she still knew that the mush was with Hazrat Abbas. She knew he was coming and she told the children, she said, he's coming. Hazrat Abbas, how skilled was he? He's riding the horse with no arms. And then an arrow hit him in the eye. And Hazrat Abbas, he could not flinch. He had no arms to flinch, kept riding the horse. They're not going to stop Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. He had the mushka Bibi Sakina to deliver to the children. Another arrow came and hit him in the forehead. Hazrat Abbas was dizzy, but he was not going to let the mush of Sakina not get delivered. He was not going to let the mushka Sakina not get delivered. Then Hurmala from afar took an arrow and shot an arrow. The arrow flew in the air and it pierced Hazrat Abbas right in the chest. The water of the mush was pierced. The blood from his face started to spill with the water. This broke the spirit of Hazrat Abbas and he fell to the floor. Hazrat Abbas, he fell to the floor with an arrow in his head, an arrow in his eye. He fell on his face and he did not have arms to support him. He fell on his face and he called to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein ran and he took the head of Hazrat Abbas and he put it in his lap, and Hazrat Abbas started to cry. He said, "My brother, why are you crying?" Listen, my brothers and sisters, I know it's hard to hear this, but Imam Hussein was walking to find Hazrat Abbas, looking around for Hazrat Abbas. His eyes caught something. He had not known what had happened. All he knew is Hazrat Abbas fell. His eyes caught something, and he saw the arm of his brother on the floor. He looked up, he saw his brother's other arm on the floor, and then he saw his brother laying there with no arms. And then he went and he put Hazrat Abbas his head in his lap. And I don't know if you've ever seen what happens when you sever a main artery, but blood doesn't just drip, it flows and it squirts out of your arms. The blood from Hazrat Abbas's arms were flowing and squirting onto Imam Hussein's face. He was wiping blood from his eyes. He was wiping blood from Hazrat Abbas's eyes. Hazrat Abbas looked at him and said, "My mullah, you're the light of my eyes. You're the first thing I saw when I was born. I want you to be the last thing I see when you die." And Imam Hussein held him. His back was broken. Figuratively and literally, Hazrat Abbas had helped to lift body after body. And Hazrat Abbas, he made a very important request. He said, "Don't take my body back to the camp. This is a request that a man like Hussein would not, it doesn't matter if he had a broken back. He's going to lift the body of Abbas and carry it." But what did Hazrat Abbas say? He said, perhaps he knew that the body of Imam Hussein was broken. Perhaps he knew that Imam Hussein could not lift another body. Perhaps he knew that there was nobody to help Imam Hussein lift this last body. Perhaps he knew that Imam Hussein was tired and thirsty too. And so he told Imam Hussein, "I can't bear to see Bibi Sakina. I told her that water, that I will not return to the camp without water. How could you take my body back?" And so at this, Imam Hussein, he agreed. "Now I will ask you, his arms were severed. What do you think happened to the rest of the body of Abbas? He was buried in a grave. He was a huge man, like I said, when he mounted a his mighty horse. His feet were he was so tall, his feet touched the floor. His grave is that of a little child. Why? Because the pieces of Hazrat Abbas were scattered all over Karbala by the enemies of Islam, attacking him. The horses trampling him. Bibi Sakina saw Imam Hussein come back, covered in blood, and just like everybody who had left, her uncle had not come back. And she asked, "Where's my Uncle Abbas? Where's my Uncle Abbas? I promise I will never ask for water again. Just send me my Uncle Abbas." And from that point on, Bibi Sakina, she never asked for water again. For the sake of Hazrat Abbas, for the sake of the arms that he carried the mushk and the alam with, Ya Allah, please fulfill our wishes on this night. Forgive our sins, accept our ibadah. Ya Allah, please guide us. Guide us to understand what we're here for, to understand and to see the clear signs that you put in front of us, and not to jade our life with things that are unimportant to us. Ya Allah, you are the only guide, and you sent your perfect infallible imamat on this earth. Ya Allah, guide us to our imam. He is hidden from us. Send him back to us soon. Ya Allah, if it's our fault that our imam's not here, if it's our fault because we're not answering his call, if it's our fault because we're not the type of people that the imam wants as a helper, then forgive us and guide us and make us the types of people that make the imam come. Ya Allah, on this night, please send us send us blessings and forgive our sins. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu.
Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Ya Hussein.
Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
हलचल है फौज शाम में अब्बास आते हैं हलचल है फौज शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way.
तीरों पे तीरों नेज़े पे नेज़े चलते हैं
Arrows on arrows, spears on spears, the enemy attacks.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
क्या वक्त पड़ गया है मोहम्मद के आल पर क्या वक्त पड़ गया है मोहम्मद की आल पर चादर नहीं है बालों से मुंह पे चादर नहीं है बालों से मुंह को छुपाते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
He looked just like the prophet, Ali Akbar is his name. He looked just like the prophet, Ali Akbar is his name. A spear pulled out from his side, Karbala is bloodstained.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
असगर को माँ छुपाती है झुक झुक के गोद में असगर को माँ छुपाती है झुक झुक के गोद में खेमों को तोड़ तोड़ के जब तीर आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
Ali Asr is held safely in Omer Robab's lap. Ali Asr is held safely in Omer Robab's lap. Instead of giving water, a three-headed arrow attack.
Instead of giving water, a three-headed arrow attack.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
तीरों पे तीर नेज़ों पे नेज़े चलते हैं तीरों पे तीर नेज़ों पे नेज़े चलते हैं हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way. The children crying out from thirst, the kids' throats were dry. The children crying out from thirst, the kids' throats were dry. For Ali Asr is so weak, he had no strength to cry.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं. On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
दिल पानी पानी होता है बच्चों के प्यास से
दिल पानी पानी होता है बच्चों की प्यास से.
सूखी जबान होठों पे असगर पिराता है हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way. The young boys, oh no Muhammad, Sadqa is enough. The young boys, oh no Muhammad, Sadqa is enough. The little boy sacrificed to show a mother's love. On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं हलचल है फौजे शाम में
अब्बास आते हैं.
तीरों पे तीर नेज़ों पे नेज़े चलते हैं
तीरों पे तीर नेज़ों पे नेज़े चलते हैं. Arrows on arrows, spears on spears, the enemy attacks. हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं.
हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
The tents are burned, arrows fly, the children are displaced. Tents are burned, the arrows fly, the children are displaced. Hijabs were stolen from their head, the women hide their face. On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way.
असगर को माँ छुपाती है झुक झुक के गोद में असगर को माँ छुपाती है झुक झुक के गोद में खेमों को तोड़ तोड़ के जब तीर आते हैं हलचल है फौजे शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
On the battlefield of destiny, a boss is on his way. Janabi Qasim was so small, his sword touched the floor.
Janabi Qasim was so small, his sword touched the floor.
Trampled under the horse's hoofs, his blessed body torn. On the battlefield of destiny,
Abbas is on his way.
on the battlefield of destiny,
Abbas is on his way. Sham mein Abbas aate hain.
on the battlefield of destiny,
Abbas is on his way.
arrows on arrows, spears on spears, the enemy attacks. Al Chal hai fauj Sham mein Abbas aate hain. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. 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 Ya Abbas.
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 Abbas is on his way.
Abbas is on his way.
Abbas is on his way. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Son of the Lion of God, the Lion of the tribe is what he was called.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas, no matter what the cost.
With you on our side, we are never lost. Babu Hawaii is the
Gateway to prayers.
You stood by Hussein when no one else was there. Let me tell you about a hero
named Abbas.
His arms they fought for freedom until they cut them off.
When he mounted a gob, his mighty horse, he was so tall his feet touched the floor. Who would have known what they had in store? When he rode for Sakina, rode for her thirst, he reached the river, but he didn't drink first. Alatash, and Alamina Mush to knock down the flag of Islam. They sent the dogs to cut off his arm. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
His arms were lost. The water for the children clenched with his teeth. A shot from Hormuzd, the bag water was breached.
Let me tell you about a hero named Abbas. His arms they fought for freedom
Until they cut them off.
She was the daughter of Ali and the Lady of Light. Zainab was his sister,
Protected by might.
The arms of Abbas,
They protected her veil.
With Abbas on her side,
She would always prevail.
He was trained by the greatest.
Hazrat Ali.
There was no foe he could not defeat when the lion married Benin.
It was the day of Ashura he had on his mind. A companion for Hussein he would surely find. In Karbala, the land of despair, neither Ali nor Hassan, none would be there. So Allah gave him a son, the gateway to prayers. Babul Hawaii would surely be there. Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas, Ya Abbas. The flag of Islam will never be lost. He held it high until they took his hands. Now Zainab and Kulsum paraded through the lands. Bills snatched from their heads.
Their protector was dead, but they saved Islam. And that's all that was said. Let me tell you about a hero
named Abbas.
His arms they fought for freedom until they took them off. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas.
Ya Abbas.
Abbas.
Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Sakina. Ay Pias.
Ya Sakina.
Ay Pias.
Ya Sakina.
Ay Pias.
Ya Sakina.
Ay Pias. Ya Abbas.
Ya
Ay Sakina. Ay Pias. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ay Sakina. Ay Pias. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ay Sakina. Ay Pias. Ya Abbas. Ya Abbas. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Abbas. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Nare Hadri. Ya Ali. Hadri.
Ya Ali.
Hadri.
Ya Ali.
Let one more now. Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein.
हलचल है फौज शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
हलचल है फौज शाम में अब्बास आते हैं
हलचल है फौज शाम में
Abbas
आते हैं on the battlefield of destiny.
Abbas is on his way.
On the battlefield of destiny.
Abbas is on his way.
Arrows on arrows, spears on spears. The enemy attacks on the battlefield of destiny.
Abbas
on
On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. He looked just like the prophet. Ali Akbar is his name. He looks just like the prophet. Ali Akbar is his name. A spear pulled out from his side. Karbala is bloodstained. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. Ali Asr is held safely in the Umair Bab's lap. Ali Asr is held safely in the Umair Bab's lap. Instead of giving water, a three-headed arrow attacked. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. The children crying out from thirst, the kids' throats are dry. The children crying out from thirst, the kids' throats are dry. For Ali Asgar is so weak, he has no strength to cry. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. The young boys honor Muhammad Satay Zainab. The young boys honor Muhammad Satay Zainab. The little boy sacrificed to show mother's love. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. Janab-e Qasim was so small, his sword touched the floor. Janab-e Qasim was so small, his sword touched the floor. Trampled under the horse's hooves, his blessed body torn. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. The strength he gave to the world, the King Imam Hussein. The strength he gave to the world, the King Imam Hussein. The beloved of the Lord is beheaded and is slain. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. The tents are burned, arrows by the children are displaced. The tents are burned, arrows by the children are displaced. Hijabs were stolen from their heads, the women hide their face. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. On the battlefield of destiny, Abbas is on his way. Hal chal hai fauj Sham mein, Abbas aate hain. Hal chal hai fauj Sham mein, Abbas aate hain. Ya Abbas, 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 Sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa sallam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ilahi azmal bala.
وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
اللهم صل
Surah Fatiha, Qul Mu'mineen Mu'minaat ke liye.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
Zara. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Rasulullah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya khairatullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Habibullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Sifat alayhi. Assalamu alaikum ya Aminallahi. Ashhadu anaka Rasulullahi wa ashhadu anna Muhammad ibn Abdullahi wa ashhadu annaka qad nashata liumaka wa jahada fi sabilillah rabbaka wa abduta hatta atakla yakin fajazakala ya rasulahi afzala majazai nabiyan ummihi Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad then afzal ma saliyat ala Ibrahim innaka Hamidun Majid. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum ya Abdullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Ibn Rasulullah. Assalamu alaikum ya Ibn Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alaikum ya Ibn Fatima Zahra. Assalamu alaikum ya Abul Fazl Abbas. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum ya Gharib al-Ghurba. Assalamu alaikum ya Ali ibn Musa Rida. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
Jawat Imam Mahdi alayhi salam. Assalamu alaikum ya Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Assalamu alaikum ya Imam al-Insi wal Jan. Assalamu alaikum ya Sharik al-Quran. Alaman, Alaman, Alaman. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
اللهم قوي وليك وجدنا الحسنة صلواتك عليه وعلى آله في هذا الساعة وفي كل ساعة واليوم وحافظا وقائزا ونعصا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسلم أرزقك وتمدد في هذه برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum. English translation. In the name of Allah, the Benevolent, the Merciful. O Allah, please do send blessings to Muhammad and the household of Muhammad. O Allah, be for your representation, the Hujjah, proof, son of Al-Hasan. Your blessings be on him and his forefathers, in this hour and in every hour. A guardian, a protector, a leader, a helper, a proof, and an eye, until you make him live on the earth in obedience to you and cause him to live in it for a long time. Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farjahum.
Nare Hadri.
Ya Ali.
Please join us tonight as we continue the program. We have Hajri right now for Hazrat Abbas, and then we'll do poetry night. On Sunday morning, we have a majlis at the Qabristan. Our room are waiting for somebody to come and do Pur Imam Hussain with them. So Sunday morning at 11 a.m. sharp. I know Desi time is always not sharp, but we're going to start sharp at 11 a.m. So if you come late, mashallah, you'll still get sawab for the entire majlis. We'll do it on your behalf, but it'd be nice if we could all be there to do majlis for our marhum, 11 a.m. sharp. And followed by Monday will be the day of Ashura. We have Amal's at 10 a.m. live here in Huntington Beach. 1:30 p.m. we start the Jalous at Marina Park on Springer and Ettinger, Graham and Ettinger in Huntington Beach, California, Marina Park. And we'll take a Jalous, walk on the streets of Huntington, and then come back and do Pursa of Imam Hussein, followed by Ziyarat Ashura, Faka Shikni, and then we'll close the Ashura program off with Sham al-Riba after Maghrib time. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu.
Allahumma salli ala